What would you do if a stranger walked into a room, looked you dead in the eye, and claimed to be your wife? That was the question Olden Hollister faced on a quiet Tuesday afternoon in Red Creek Valley. He never forgot the moment because it hit him harder than any bullet ever had. The Red Creek saloon was half full when it happened. Men played cards by the window, ranchers leaned on the counter with half-empty glasses, and old Vernon Stratton picked out a slow tune on the piano. Sunlight streamed through dusty windows, making the air look thick with smoke. Olden sat alone in the corner. He was rolling a fresh smoke, working slow and steady, the way he always did. Paper, weed, roll, press. He lit it and breathed in deep. It was the closest thing he had to peace after years of wearing a badge. Then, the batwing doors slammed shut behind someone. A woman walked in like she owned every board she stepped on. Dust clung to her skirt. Travel showed on her face. She scanned the room once, then her eyes locked on him. Sharp, certain, like she had been looking for him a long time. "I'm Mrs. Olden Hollister," she said. Every sound in the saloon stopped, even the piano. Olden stared at her, smoke trapped in his lungs, mind blank. His first thought was simple. When did I ever lose my mind enough to marry somebody? He stood 6 feet tall, built strong from years of ranching and law work. He had been sheriff of Red Creek Valley for 6 years. Before that, a deputy in Silver Ridge. Before that, a cattle hand. He believed in what he could see and hold. But this made no sense. "Ma'am," he said slowly, setting his smoke down, "I think you got the wrong man." "I don't," she replied. Her voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It carried truth in it, clean and sharp. She walked forward and reached into her coat. Every man in the saloon tensed, hands slipping toward holsters. But she didn't pull a gun. She pulled paper. Old paper. Folded small and yellow at the edges. She laid it on Olden's table. "This is our marriage certificate," she said. "Signed by you. Witnessed by a preacher. Dated June 14th, 1879. That makes it 4 years, 4 months, and 11 days since you became my husband." Olden's stomach dropped. He picked up the paper with stiff fingers. The writing was faded but clear. His name was there. His signature, too. And that curve in the H of Hollister, it looked just like his hand had made it. "That ain't possible," he said. "It's possible," she answered. "It happened." Men started laughing. A few slapped their thighs like they'd heard the best joke in years. Someone hollered, "Sheriff's got a wife he don't remember." Olden ignored them. His eyes stayed on the woman. "You Olden Hollister?" she asked. "I am." "Then I got the right man." Olden swallowed. "What's your name?" "Mercy Hollister," she said. "Born Mercy Pritchard." "I've been using your name for years." Her face wasn't painted like saloon girls. Her dress wasn't much to look at except for the neat stitching and careful hands behind it. She looked like the kind of woman who lived on hard land and made no complaint. Tired eyes. Steady shoulders. She looked like trouble of a different kind, the kind that stayed. "You remember Dawson's Ridge?" she asked. Olden froze. He remembered Dawson's Ridge. He remembered chasing a stage robber into those cold mountains. He remembered taking a bullet in the shoulder. After that, nothing but fever, darkness, and the feeling of dying alone. "I remember it," he said. "Then you remember me." "I don't." Her jaw tightened. Hurt flickered in her eyes, quick but sharp. "You were shot," she said quietly. "You were dying. I pulled you out of the snow. I kept you alive for 6 days in a trapper's cabin. You talked while you burned up with fever. You said you didn't want to die alone. On the 6th day a preacher came through. You asked him to marry us." Olden stared at her. Memories swirled like smoke. Voices, soft hands, warmth, but no face he could place. "I woke up alone," he said. "No one was there. You left before I came back from the creek." Silence filled the room all over again. "If this is real," Olden said, tapping the paper, "why come find me now? Why after 4 years?" Quote, Mercy hesitated. Her hands rose, then fell, like she was steadying herself. "Because the men you arrested back then got out of prison last month," she said. "The Cowboy brothers. They're looking for me. They think I know something. They burned my shop. They want revenge." The saloon held its breath. Olden felt the weight of the badge on his chest. It felt heavier than usual. "Why come to me?" he asked. "Because you're the only person who ever promised to stand between me and danger, whether you remember it or not." Olden studied her. She wasn't begging or trembling. She stood tall like a storm-weathered fence post, strong, stubborn, determined, real. "Come with me," Olden said quietly. "We can't talk here." He guided her out of the saloon, ignoring the whispers, chasing them through the swinging doors. They stepped into the dusty street where the late afternoon sun burned red. He looked at her again. Her face wasn't familiar, but something about her, something under the surface, stirred an old memory he couldn't quite catch. Maybe a voice, a touch, a promise made when he was half gone. Whatever it was, it made him say words he didn't expect. "You'll stay at my cabin tonight," he said. "You're not safe alone." Mercy looked at him, eyes soft but certain. "Thank you," she said. Olden nodded once, his jaw tight, his heart loud. He had no idea that letting her walk beside him would change everything. Olden Hollister did not believe in fate, but the walk back to his cabin felt like it was carrying him straight into something he could no longer dodge. The dust rose around their boots. The sun dipped lower, and Mercy kept a quiet pace beside him. She did not cling, did not ask questions, did not look afraid. She walked like she had earned the ground under her feet. When they reached the cabin, Olden opened the door and stepped aside. Mercy entered first. The fire was low, the place neat, the way he always kept it. Boots lined straight by the door, hat on the right peg, coat on the left. Mercy walked in like she recognized every corner. Olden watched her carefully. "You been here before?" "No," she said softly, "but I know you." Quote. She touched the loose peg he never used. She tested it with her hand before hanging her coat on it. It wobbled. She adjusted it just so. Then she moved to the stove and brushed her fingers across the rim like she expected it to be warm. Olden felt something twist inside him, a strange memory rising from a dark place. "You said those men burned your shop," he said. "Why?" Mercy sat at the table, folding her hands. "Because they think I know something you don't even know you told me." Olden sat opposite her, his voice rough. "What would I have told you?" "You talked in your fever," Mercy said. "You talked about everything, your mother dying slow, your brother drowning. The woman you almost married and left because you thought you'd get her killed. You talked about regret, about not wanting to die alone." Olden's chest tightened. He never told anyone those things. Not Vernon, not the mayor, no one. "How do you know all that?" he asked. "Because you told me," she said. "And I listened." Olden leaned back, feeling the truth settle heavy. Her eyes, the tone of her voice, the way she moved through the cabin, something inside him recognized her even if his mind could not. "You'll sleep by the fire," he said. "I'll take the floor." Mercy looked up. "We're married." "You said we're married," Olden corrected. "I don't remember it." She held his eyes for a long moment before nodding. "All right, fire will do." He watched her lay out blankets, her hands practiced like she'd slept on cold floors before. Something in him didn't like that thought. Later, as they drank evening coffee in silence, Olden asked, "Why didn't you come find me sooner?" Quote, "I did." She looked into her cup. "I went to Silver Ridge. They said you joined a posse. When I tracked you to Red Creek, you were sheriff. You looked like a man who didn't want his past catching up." "So you walked away," Olden said. "I built a life." Then her voice cracked, just a little, and then it burned. Olden's jaw clenched. "The Cowboy brothers, they're coming for you." "For anyone connected to you," she corrected. "They think I heard something that could hurt them." Olden stood. "I'll keep you safe." Mercy looked up at him. "You don't owe me anything." "I owe you my life," he said, "and maybe more." The cabin felt too quiet after that. 3 days passed. Mercy stayed in the cabin while Olden went about his work. He'd return at dusk to find the place swept, supper warm, and Mercy sitting by the window, sewing one of his shirts. She worked quiet, steady. She laughed sometimes. She sang while she cooked. She cried in her sleep. Olden remembered none of Dawson's Ridge, but he learned Mercy like he was reading a book he couldn't put down. On the 5th day, he came home to find her sitting on the porch, staring down the road. Her shoulders looked stiff. Her hands were tight in her lap. "What is it?" Olden asked. Mercy didn't look at him. "There was a note left at Mrs. Quincade's house today." She handed it to him without shaking, but her voice said enough. The message was short. "We know where you are. We're coming." Olden's stomach turned to stone. "When?" he asked. "This morning." Quote, "You should have told me sooner." "I'm telling you now." Olden scanned the road, the hills, the distant trees. Every shadow looked wrong. "You're not leaving my sight again," he said. "Not until this ends." That night he slept by the door with his gun in hand. Mercy lay by the fire pretending to sleep, hands clutching the blankets. The next day, Olden sent a wire for help, but none came. 2 nights later, while Olden stepped outside to check the yard, Mercy spotted something in the cabin, a half-smoked roll he'd left on the table. She stared at it too long, like memories were fighting their way up through years of dust. She lit it, took a breath. One puff. Another. It loosened her shoulders, made her feel bold the way she had once felt in Dawson's Ridge, watching a dying man whisper his fears. When Olden walked back inside and saw her, he stopped cold. Then he smiled slow, surprised, and almost pleased. Mercy didn't look away. She set the roll down, walked toward him, her voice low. "If I get you under the sheets," she whispered, "I'll remind you exactly who I am." Quote. Olden moved without thinking. He grabbed her face in his rough hands and kissed her hard. All the tension of the past days snapped in that moment. She pulled him closer, her fingers gripping his shirt, her breath hot against his skin. Olden lifted her, carried her to the bed, and the world outside disappeared. The storm between them broke open, years of distance burning away, until nothing was left but heat and want, and something deeper neither of them had words for. After, they lay tangled in the quiet. Olden brushed hair from her face. Mercy traced her fingers over his chest, slow and tender. When the fire burned low, she returned to her blankets by the hearth. Olden sat awake long after, staring at the ceiling. He had no memory of Dawson's Ridge, but he remembered this feeling. And it scared him more than any outlaw ever had. Olden Hollister woke the next morning with the weight of danger sitting heavy on his chest. Mercy moved around the cabin quietly, avoiding his eyes. She cooked breakfast, washed dishes, and folded blankets like nothing had happened between them the night before. But Olden felt it in every breath he took. Something between them had changed. He didn't know what to say, so he said nothing. He put on his coat, checked his gun, and stepped onto the porch. The air felt tense. Even the morning birds stayed quiet. When he turned, Mercy was standing in the doorway. "They're coming, aren't they?" she asked. Olden nodded. "Soon." Mercy stepped outside. She wasn't shaking, but her throat bobbed when she swallowed. "If something happens to you, if they get past you—" "They won't," Olden said. "I won't let them." Her voice dropped. "Olden, you don't remember me. You don't owe me your life." Olden shook his head. "I don't remember the past, Mercy, but I remember the cabin now with you in it. I remember the way you stood your ground in the saloon. I remember the way you looked at me like you knew who I was before I did. That counts for something." She looked away as tears filled her eyes. "I never wanted this. I never wanted to bring danger to your door." "You didn't," Olden said. "Danger finds lawmen no matter what." His eyes shifted to the ridge. 2 riders appeared. The Cowboy brothers. Barrett, tall and thin. Sterling, wide-shouldered and mean-eyed. They moved slow, steady, like men not afraid of anything waiting for them. "Inside," Olden said. Mercy didn't move. "Olden." "Inside." This time she obeyed. She stepped back into the cabin and barred the door. Olden stayed in the yard, feet planted firm, hand on his gun. The brothers rode up until their horses were kicking dust at his boots. "Sheriff," Barrett said. "We got unfinished business." Olden didn't blink. "We don't." Barrett tilted his head. "You took 4 years of our life." You took a stage and shot 2 guards. That's on you." "We ain't here for you," Sterling growled. "We're here for the woman." "She knows something." "She knows nothing," Olden said. "Leave now." Barrett smiled slow. "Can't do that." Olden saw it happen before the brothers even finished breathing. Barrett's hand twitched toward his gun. Olden drew fast, faster than Barrett remembered, and fired once. Barrett screamed, clutching his wrist as his gun hit the dirt. Sterling tried to pull his, but Olden fired at the ground near the horse. The animal reared, tossing Sterling face first into the dust. Olden aimed at them both. This time, steady. "Sure. You're done," he said. Barrett glared up at him. "This ain't over." "It is," Olden said. "You leave this valley. You don't come back. If I see you within 10 miles of my land, I will shoot to kill. You hear me?" Neither brother spoke. They just climbed onto their horses with slow, pained movements and rode away, disappearing over the ridge. Only when they were gone did Mercy open the door. Her face was pale, her breath coming fast. "They'll come back," she whispered. "Not for a while," Olden said. "And next time I'll be ready." Mercy whispered, "Thank you." But Olden wasn't looking at her. He was staring at the valley, thinking hard. The danger wasn't over. It never was. But something else pushed inside him. Guilt, confusion, a feeling too deep to name. He turned to Mercy. "You said they burned your shop," he said, "but you didn't tell me everything." Mercy froze. Olden stepped closer. "What didn't you tell me?" She sat at the table. Her hands shook as she twisted her skirt. Her eyes were wet before she spoke. "After you left Dawson's Ridge, I found out I was expecting. I carried the baby alone. I worked, saved what little I could. I was scared." Olden felt his heartbeat stop. Mercy's voice cracked. "I had a son. I named him Jasper, after my father." Olden felt the world tilt. His knees nearly gave way. "He died," she whispered, 3 days after he was born. His lungs weren't strong enough. I buried him by myself." Olden dropped to a knee in front of her, his hands trembling as they took hers. "Mercy," he said, voice rough, "why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't want your pity," Mercy cried. "I didn't want you to look at me and feel sorrow instead of a promise." Olden shook his head. "I would have come back, if I'd known." "You didn't remember me," Mercy cut in gently. "You didn't even remember our vows." Quote, Olden's throat burned. "But I know them now." Mercy lifted her eyes to his, full of grief and strength. "Do you?" Olden leaned his forehead to hers. "I married you because I didn't want to die alone. But I'm choosing you now because I want to live with you." Mercy's breath hitched. He pulled her close and held her while she cried into his shirt. He didn't speak. He just held her until her sobs softened. That night, she didn't sleep by the fire. She lay beside him. He wrapped an arm around her waist and listened to her breathing, steady and soft. For the first time, he slept without fear. The danger didn't vanish overnight. The brothers disappeared into their own darkness. But Mercy stayed. And day by day, they built the life they never got the first time. A marriage made in fear had become a marriage built on choice. One morning, months later, Mercy took his hand, placed it on her belly, and whispered, "Olden, we're going to have another child." Olden's eyes filled. He pulled her close. "We'll do it together this time. I won't miss a single moment." Time passed. Their ranch grew. Their daughter was born strong and loud, just like Mercy. Olden hung up his badge and built a home with his own hands. No more running. No more emptiness. He had a family. He had a wife. He had a life he never knew he wanted. And it all began the day a tired woman walked into a saloon and said, "I'm your wife." In the end, Olden Hollister learned something he should have known long ago. A man can run from his past, but sometimes his past is the best thing that ever happened to him.